Power on.
Real-time Sovryn is go.
Woo, the Golden Stallion, the man of tomorrow, Sov-Zoo, the rated R radio star, Dr. Brian Sovryn, here for another real-time Sovryn, and has been practically tradition at this point. I am not alone. I haven't had to do one of these alone for a while, it seems now. And I am so excited once again to have have my brother, the man, Robin Freebeard. Or should I say the android? I don't know. Soon type. Yeah. I love it. Welcome back to Real Time Sovryn, brother.
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
Yeah. And we got to, well, we're going to get into this. This is going to be a little bit of a TIE Fighter Renegades reunion here, I think, in its own way, because this episode, we'll see what we get into, but it might be all Star Wars all the time. Because this weekend, you, myself and Mrs. Sovryn, we all went and caught the 20th anniversary re-release of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I really think it would have been better if they did like a May 5th release for that, or a May 6th. I don't know which one Hallmark decided on was Revenge of the, like May the 4th is Star Wars Day, then there's Revenge of the 5th or Revenge of the 6th. Who knows? Anyway, it all worked out. Packed theaters everywhere that I am aware of. In fact, a lot of what's that?
It was a close encounter of the Sith kind.
Yeah, we were up pretty close.
We were.
Yeah. And I got those tickets. I mean, I bought them well ahead of time, but again, theaters were just already selling out. And I mean, the numbers had come in. I don't think it did like 100 million, but it added on at least another 50 million, for a 20-year-old movie. That's impressive performance.
Well, yeah, it's saying it broke records for a re-release. It's the biggest re-release of any movie.
Yeah, I could believe it. I mean, I can remember when A New Hope got re-released originally for the special editions back in 97. And of course, you have to adjust for inflation. So it might be a little bit of a different story. But at the time, I think they were blown away that it did like 17 million opening weekend. And I mean, that's even, and whatever it ended up doing the rest of that time, like that was a full theatrical release, as to where this was just a weekend. I think we had like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and that's it. So impressive numbers for sure. I know
a Star Wars tradition, because I don't remember this because I had just been born, but if you go back to the release of the original Star Wars 1977, they kept re-releasing that in theaters, and it stayed in theaters for like almost 2 years straight.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, it got the re-releases at the point where they finally added in Episode 4, to the to the opening crawl. Yeah, for sure. I mean, speaking of records, I'm sure Star Wars breaks these right and left, but I think Episode 1 still has to be like the most re-released movie in history, because I mean, we got the 3D re-release. There was that charity re-release that they did back in like 2001, maybe. I mean, like that movie has been jammed into theaters so many times. I mean, I'm sure the other movies are eventually going to catch up in some form or fashion if they haven't already. But I mean, for big ticket releases, Episode 3 was no slouch for sure. And I mean, I've seen plenty of commentators coming out and saying that this is proof that no, people aren't sick of Star Wars; they're just sick of Disney, because they'll go see real Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this was like, a market signal to Disney, and I wouldn't be surprised if they re-release Revenge of the Sith every 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, probably for any of the major six, I could imagine that. Yeah. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Rogue One did well, if they decide to re-release that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, even just from the fact of like the goodwill the fans have for it, I could believe that it would get re-releases. I have a really hard time believing that Solo would ever get like a re-release.
I mean, no, they want to bury that movie. I mean, unless it goes through some sort of, reappreciation like the prequels did post Disney,
right?
but I think that's a long ways off if that ever happens.
Yeah, it's a big if, because
Yeah. I mean, it does have its fans,
sure.
oddly enough. And I don't even think it really I don't think it's the worst Star Wars movie. I think it had the distinct misfortune of following the worst Star Wars movie. Well, maybe.
Well, depends who you ask, but yeah, The Last Jedi is it's usually a toss up between Last Jedi and and Rise of Skywalker, I think, as far as like worst one. And you're right. Like Solo isn't as bad as any of the sequel trilogy films. Like that,
nowhere near.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And there were some inspired moves in that, some inspired casting. So, no, I'm with you on that. But like that's one I just can't imagine it. I really, and like even the sequel trilogy, I feel like people literally would not go out of just complete spite. And it doesn't matter how many kids would go see it, or how many people in their 20s would go see it, say 10 years from now or something. I think the market signal would still be there that like, no, people just aren't interested. But who knows? Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I think they've been figuring it out because they keep pushing back these new, movies that are going to be featuring Rey.
Yeah.
That they have planned. And they keep on being pushed off. And I think they are kind of like receiving the signal that these aren't going to make the money that they're hoping they will.
Yeah, I mean, they really seemed, based on Celebration, and I want to talk more about episode 3 here in a second, but I mean, we did just have Star Wars Celebration happen with a lot of announcements. Of course, that really means nothing, as we're already saying here, because
unless it's already in production, which some of the stuff they did show was already in production. So
right. But I mean, like we have that Starfighter movie with Ryan Gosling, which
I'm not excited about that.
No, me neither.
I feel like I should be. I feel like that's a movie that would be geared towards us specifically.
Yep.
But all the the casting choices and what we've heard of the plot, not interested.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Gosling does nothing for me. I mean, like nothing, zero.
No.
In fact, it's almost like
he kind of drags things down for me. Like, I aside from my other criticisms of the movie, I think he actually kind of drags Blade Runner 2049 down.
Yeah. I mean, he's not enough to match Harrison Ford for sure. In that. I mean, he's in some good movies. Like even that Fall Guy remake was okay. Not because of him, but I don't know. To me, he's like negative points for a film, just like Jared Leto. Like him and Jared Leto hold a pretty high, low mark.
I mean, I actually put him below Jared Leto because at least Jared Leto can at least act where you believe he's a different character. Every Ryan Gosling movie I've seen, I feel like I'm just watching Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. And he doesn't have like the panache that like say Tom Cruise does, because that's the same thing that people say about Tom Cruise is that like, oh, he's always Tom Cruise, and it's like, yeah, that's fine, like that's what we want. But with Ryan Gosling, no, that's not what we want. So yeah, I mean, it's just not enough. I mean, it doesn't matter how many pecs and abs you put on the guy, it doesn't matter. So yeah, that was a boring announcement. Maybe a little later we could talk about some of the other announcements that could be interesting that are coming down the pike, or perhaps down the double-bladed lightsaber, depending upon what we're who we're talking about. But yeah, so episode 3. I mean, because talk about somebody who's, I think their cultural cachet has completely inverted from negative to extreme positive. When we went to go see episode 3, it opened right up with Hayden Christensen, talking to the audience, and kind of a quick, I mean, it wasn't anything long. I wouldn't have minded if it was something long. That would have been cool. But he introed the movie, and I mean, I think people in general were really excited about that. I mean, again, I always thought he was a fine actor. Like so many of his movies I've enjoyed outside of Star Wars. Virgin Territory, I mean, there's a bunch. Even Jumper, I like Jumper plenty. but he was kind of universally disliked at the time. But again, that is very, very much changed. So what did you think of like seeing him open up the film? How did you feel about that, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I think they're finally acknowledging him. It's interesting because after Disney bought the franchise,
Mhm.
it kind of seemed like they were just going with whatever they felt that the fan sentiment was online. At that time, the prequels were still largely thought as inferior to the original trilogy, and
Right.
so they kind of ignored it a lot. They didn't want to see any new movies or any TV series that take place in that era. They didn't want to even have any video games. Well, they didn't want to have any video games, period, after Disney, the Disney bought them because they shut
Yeah.
down LucasArts. But I mean, like, prior to that, like, LucasArts was turning out more prequel video games than they were in any other era.
Yeah. 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 So yeah, it was cool. I mean, the funny thing is, like, I think about it, and I mean, I'm to the point, and you and I, Rob, off air have talked about this a ton of times, but like, I'm to the point where like, I'm not even jazzed about like the prequels anymore. And I was one of their greatest defenders since they came out. Um, but I'm even like, well, I'm not going to recount all that history, but I'm just saying that even I don't get excited about that. But I'll admit that the few things that Disney has done outside of, say, Rogue One, that were actually my favorite moments were probably the moments both in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, and in Ahsoka when Hayden Christensen came back, and, I mean, and he was awesome, like it was mind blowing how great he was, coming back in that role. So, I think again, his cultural cachet has shifted. Like his stance with the fans has definitely shifted. And he's one of the rare positive forces, I feel like, because honestly, I think, and you tell me what you think, Rob. I mean, I think that if Ewan McGregor opened up that show or opened up, the thing, I don't know if people, because Obi-Wan was such a bad series, I don't know how people would have felt about it. What do you think?
I don't know about that. I mean, I do think having Hayden was the right choice. It is kind of his moment.
Yep.
And I'm glad he's getting it. And the same for Ahmed Best too. I'm glad he finally got his, sort of, recognition for his role too. Even if I still don't like Jar Jar very much.
Sure.
He was very much, like I would say overly maligned.
Right.
As Hayden Christensen was.
Right.
And none of that was the fault of either of those actors. So I have to basically apply the same logic to Ewan McGregor. None of what happened in Obi-Wan is Ewan McGregor's fault.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, that show was horrible. I don't know if it really leaves a bad
I think
taste.
the last episode kind of, I do think the last episode kind of saved it to a certain degree. That battle between Vader and Obi-Wan.
The final battle was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yep.
I even liked, the final moment between Obi-Wan and Leia. And I know that the actress who played her, like she got shit on a lot too. And I don't think that was her fault. I thought she actually did, a fantastic child Leia.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, honestly, even better than Jake Lloyd. Not that I'm complaining about Jake Lloyd, and I will not pile on that poor person.
No.
No,
not at all.
Yeah. Not that I ever did, but yeah.
Yeah, he's paid his dues, so to speak.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Although I hear he's doing much better these days.
Yep.
His mother made some social media posts, I think about a year or so ago, where she said, he's, kind of gotten his life back on track and he's actually prospering now.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I mean, total side comment, and then we are going to get more into episode 3. It's an interesting thing, like, especially now, like actors, they're not the celebrities that they used to be, like Matt Damon has said in recent years, there's no more leading men in Hollywood. There's, like you really don't have these like ultra celebrity, we're living above you kind of people anymore. And I mean, that's why they keep rolling out Hugh Jackman, to play whatever, or Harrison Ford has more roles, honestly, in the past 5 years than I think he had in his whole career before. And so, like, the reality is, and I mean, I think this is kind of always true, unless you're in this very, very rare upper echelon. Like, these are people just doing a 9 to 5 job. And even the hours might be longer than that. And just imagine what it's like to, for like the whole world to basically comment on, like, say your movie comes out and people don't like the movie and getting shat on, but compare it to, you doing a project for whatever job you happen to work within. And the whole world, it's not just your boss that tells you did a shit job. The whole world's telling you did a shit job. How would you feel? Like, right. That sucks,
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely think that's the huge part of it. I think another part of it too is that, the studios have really kind of taken tighter control of marketing for movies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a control issue where, like the superstar kind of had a lot of control back in the day.
Yeah.
Not just in, the production of the movie, but like, and the marketing and the studios didn't like that. So, they wanted to take that control away from the actors.
Oh, for sure. It's the Beatles effect. It's like when the music industry said, we never want another Beatles ever.
Right. Yeah. Precisely.
Yeah. They don't want anything that gets bigger than the industry. And they've definitely perfected that. And honestly, I mean, social media, as dead as that concept may be, social media is basically like, I mean, if we had social media in the 80s, like, none of these actors would be venerated in any way, because I mean, they're humans. For the most part, I mean, maybe Nicole Kidman isn't, but that's a bad one. That's a joke. She does eat bugs though, but anyway, but they're human and they say stupid shit and they do stupid shit. And we would have seen them doing stupid shit in the 80s, in the 90s, but now we see them doing stupid shit all the time. So I don't think anybody necessarily venerates them anymore. And honestly, if there's stan accounts, those are usually, bots and dead internet theory anyway.
I mean, there were tabloids back in the day.
Oh,
Actors
sure.
Did stupid shit and did get, caught for it or whatever. I just don't think it was, really kind of much in the public consciousness. People didn't take it as seriously.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think social media in a way does kind of act like a tabloid.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways that people do take seriously, way too seriously.
Yeah. Well, for a lot of people, I mean, the online world is more real than the real world.
For sure.
So, yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, and it's an important thing to bring up because, I mean, I think a lot of the, these movies like episode 3, came out so that was 2005 when that first came out. I mean, the internet and like the concepts of social media and like blogging and all that was just becoming a thing. So that ability to like really hear about that much hate at such a high level, not that this movie necessarily got it so much as episodes 1 and 2 did, but that was just coming to fore. But it leads me to ask the question because, one of the main things I can remember at the time in 2005 was particularly Kevin Smith, who still had a good reputation at the time, where he came out and said, ahead of the release, he said, this is the movie that Star Wars fans have always been waiting or have been waiting for, and it was really a way of, controlled, I don't know, not controlled opposition, but, basically controlling the message, to try and get out ahead of the people that hated episode 1 and 2, saying, no, this movie's different. This movie's better. This movie's great. Now, again, like you said earlier, the prequel trilogy in general has a much better appreciation these days than they did in their own time. But episode 3, I feel like was almost always universally loved. And today, 20 years later, I mean, well, Rob, you can tell me, what did you think of episode 3 in 2005? And then what do you think about it now?
Like I'll fully admit back in the day, I was not like a big prequel fan.
Yeah. Sure.
I still, went to the premiere of every single movie.
Mhm.
I think like episode 3 was definitely for me at the time the best of the prequel movies. It didn't hit everything that I wanted to see,
Right.
but it was still like, by far the least worst of the 3.
Yeah.
I think how, I think how 2005 me would have put it.
Sure. And I mean, this is before we'd get the Clone Wars,
That has really a lot to do with the rehabilitation of the prequels, in my opinion.
Right.
I think there are some missing chains of logic and character development that are fleshed out in the Clone Wars that finally make it make sense for me. One of my biggest problems with episode 3 was how Anakin kind of turns on a dime to the dark side.
Yeah. That's still one of my biggest critiques of the film, because standing on its own, I agree with you. The Clone Wars fills that in, right? Where you get to experience like more of his descent.
Right.
But like, yeah, because in episode 3, basically, okay, Mace Windu gets lobbed out of a window and then he just falls to his knees, like he's ready to
he
go ahead.
says, "What have I done?" Which is, regret.
Yeah, right. But then
Like,
his next words are, go ahead.
Yeah, you don't say that when you're happy about what you've just done.
Right.
And I understand that, like, he feels like he had no choice. But you said, like, the next thing out of his mess, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah. It was way too quick a turn. It was just super weird. I mean, it makes me think there's always this legend about a 4-hour cut that existed at some point of Revenge of the Sith. Now, I mean, there's fans that have like put together their own cuts and, like they splice in shit from Clone Wars and everything to try and make this like mythical 4-hour Revenge of the Sith film. I mean, I can only guess that, maybe the movie, like some of those moments that just seem to be like just a hard left, made more sense in the 4-hour version. I don't know, because it's just weird.
There are other like weird little bit, like, Anakin cries after he kills all the separatists on Mustafar. He doesn't cry after he kills the young ones. That's a little weird.
It is. I mean, that's the only thing is, whenever I'm watching episode 3 and there are like other people there, and when I start laughing my ass off when he's killing all the younglings, like I always have to like stop and go, oh shit, wait. Sorry, everybody. I trust you. Trust me, I'm harmless. It's okay. It's always a weird thing.
Watching Star Wars movies with Brian and I would, by the way, like, not like, if you're the kind of person who just likes to like takes movies very seriously and just watch them straight with no interruptions, we're terrible people to do with it, because Brian and I are cracking jokes throughout the whole thing.
We had some doozies during this time. Yeah.
We did.
For sure. So yeah, I want to get in. I mean, so in 2005, like, again, I was all for the prequels at the time, like I was gung ho, like, let's do it. And the reason I was all for the prequels at the time was I'm like, even then I could kind of realize, like, okay, these aren't as great as the original trilogy. These aren't even nearly as great as half the shit that came out in the expanded universe. But we're going somewhere. Like, George is taking us on a ride. Okay. And so I'll go on George Lucas's ride and just trust that we're going to go somewhere. And in some ways, the Clone Wars gave us more of that ride and gave us more justification for why these are great stories. And I think I've beaten myself over the head enough, to basically say that, like, yeah, no, I genuinely enjoy episode 1 very much.
Right.
And, as strange as it might be for some people, like that might be my favorite prequel. And I know that's kind of weird for a lot of people. But I don't think episode 2 is anywhere near as bad as most people think it is. But
I'm most people in that case.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll agree with you on episode 1. In fact, when I first saw episode 1, I wouldn't say I loved it, but I didn't hate it.
Right.
And I felt like a lot of the hate that it got at the time was a little overblown and unjustified.
Yeah. 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 I mean,
but I don't feel that way about episode 2.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is all the hate it deserves.
Man, I'm not there, but that but I'm actually, again, I've kind of come full circle where now I'm the person who's just like, oh, the prequels, what, you know. But I mean, I don't want to get lost too much on this, but I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, okay, there's like different there isn't really different timelines of Star Wars, but in my mind, there's like different timelines of Star Wars. Like,
oh no, absolutely. I've said this 100% before, and that like the prequels definitely changed the character of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it was a very different entity before. In fact, I've said, if you go back and you say you get like the Star Wars, is it the encyclopedia?
It was from Sansweet in 98.
Yeah, exactly. From Sansweet. If you get the one that was published before the prequels, you kind of get a glimpse into, what that universe was like, before he made the prequels. And there was a lot of anticipation because, building up over many years, because, even as far back as the filming of the original trilogy, George had talked about, 6 or maybe 9 movies.
Right.
And then when they started doing the expanded universe, which was kind of like in a large way being stewarded by West End Games with the role-playing game, like it was very public knowledge that, the prequel era was, hands off. You're not allowed to touch this and do anything with it.
Right.
So that kind of built an anticipation too, is just like, okay, we have a plan for this. They're going to do something serious about this. It's not just going to be, on bookshelves. It's going to be on the big screen, which is a huge deal.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. And that's the thing is that like, so there's not like, nobody's like officially come out and said that there's these different timelines, but your point is spot on that, like you say and I keep a copy of that 98 Star Wars encyclopedia. It's one of the very few like physical books that I keep. And because it's like a reminder of that time. And
right.
I mean, you can correct me if you want, like, well, so first, here's where you can correct me on if you disagree, but like, so you're not really correcting me, you're just disagreeing. Okay. And that is, I think that was Star Wars at its best. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's, I've always been a Star Wars fan. I mean, I've said this before on TIE Fighter Renegades, and like my earliest memory is seeing the very first Star Wars at a drive-in theater.
Right.
I don't know how old I was.
Right.
I could have been, more than 3 or 4 years old. But yeah, like it's fascinating too, because like there was, fans are always going to speculate with Star Wars, and it's kind of interesting to go back and look at some of the fan speculation of what, Anakin's journey to the dark side was going to be. And, if you pay attention to, fanzines and, fan fiction and things like that, it is kind of a fascinating peek into an alternate reality.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's like Eric Stoltz and Back to the Future,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by no means am I saying it's better. But it is interesting. Like I said, it's an interesting alternate reality that we all kind of lived in before the prequels came out.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was just, there was just anything seemed to be possible at the time, before George decided to start putting pen to paper again. And it really allowed for some fascinating voices to come in and just do insane things. Like and there wasn't like this mandate from on high that we can't tell stories about bad guys, like, cause that seems to be, minus the Darth Maul show that was announced at Star Wars Celebration. We very much get this sense that like, okay, no, you are not allowed to concentrate on, evil characters and on, what the bad guys are doing as a whole.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to get some of that once the show comes out.
You think so?
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, unfortunately, as part of the times that we live in, there's such an extreme reaction to things going on in the real world.
Sure.
Like there's not a whole lot of nuance, and you're either for or against whatever you think is good or evil, and there's no viewing things from another perspective. So any attempt to quote humanize a villain is seen as adjutant to whatever evil you perceive in the world.
I did not plan on talking about this, but I think we're hitting at something really, really terrifying here, because like you and I growing up, I mean, science fiction wasn't like accepted like it is now. Sci-fi and fantasy was not the norm, and you were regularly picked on for being into it, and because when you're into it, like you were into it, right? I mean, there's a reason that a Star Wars encyclopedia was made and it sold and it did money, because people were fucking into these other universes, but what was always, what would your family say, or, teachers or whoever else? They'd always just say to you, it's just a movie. It's just a TV show,
right?
Shit like that. Right. And I get where they're coming from when they say that, of course, but I never I didn't have problems with knowing what was reality and what wasn't. You know what I mean? Like I'm keenly aware of what reality was and what fiction is. Okay. What terrifies me is that people take this shit so seriously now, like that. Now I'm wondering, do these people actually have a grasp on reality? Because they're absolutely terrified that a TV show or a movie or Star Wars, does anything that fucks with their worldview. And that's a problem. And I never thought about this until just now. And because you're raising a great point, Rob. But I'm worried. I get the sense that,
go ahead. I've been worried about this literally since 1999.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah. When The Matrix came out.
Oh, well,
I can envision a world where we stop being able to distinguish, fiction from reality.
Yeah.
And where the technology was going to lead to that. And so I can understand people's, reaction to this, because social media and even traditional media have proven how easy it is to subvert people's perception of what is reality actually is. I would say a very concerning chunk of the population is susceptible to that kind of crap.
Yeah now, and Matrix is a great example to bring up, because there were there were real world events that happened because there were kids who could not separate fiction from reality, and to where people got murdered because they thought that they lived in the Matrix and that their parents weren't real or something like that. And so real tragedies did occur out of that. And so that's always been a thing. I get
they were always outliers, extreme
exactly.
outliers. I mean, that you had that even prior to the Matrix with, say, the Satanic Panic surrounding
Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, exactly. Same sort of thing where these kids, I think they were already off the deep end, and sort of Dungeons and Dragons is just something that gave them a vehicle to act out, whatever inner demons that have, circulating.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. But but I guess that's what worries me now, is that and we didn't even need VR headsets for this to happen, by the way, folks. Yeah, I think people have completely lost touch with reality. If you can't, and you and I know this, Rob, because we've had encounters, you've had even better ones in the past on social media and where else with, with people saying oh, I'm not going to write stories about fascists, or I'm not going to write stories about, you know, the empire, blah, blah, blah. Like these aren't people who are interested in creating great art. You know what I mean? Like,
No.
they have lost touch with reality because they've taken their reality and brought it to their fiction. Fiction is no longer just escapism. And that terrifies me, you know, and it might actually be at the core of why so much sucks today, but go ahead.
And I responded to some of this not too long ago. Same person that you were talking to, oddly enough. Somebody, you know, wanted, you know, saw the TIE Advance sequence from Andor and said, you know, let's make a series about, you know, TIE fighter pilots. It would be so cool.
Yeah, like in a Top Gun style.
Right, exactly. Story. Which I would totally be on board. Yeah.
It'd be the best show ever made.
Right, exactly. But, you know, some nitwit comes along and says, no, you're humanizing fascists. And, you know, like I understand where he's coming from and what his concerns are. But, I had said that if these fucking nitwits fought as hard against real fascism as they do space fascism, maybe we wouldn't be living under fascism right now.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree completely. And that's, yeah, this is what, boy, this bothers me. And I mean, it makes me think of, there's a great book. She's written a sequel book too, but I haven't read that one yet. It just came out, but there's a great book called American Cosmos. There's a lot of reasons to read this, but I think she directly even talks about what Disney's doing with Star Wars and how they're turning it into a very literal religion. Now, I mean, Star Wars has already fit into that kind of mold for a long time because it plays with spiritual precepts. Okay. And it always has. And it seemed like there was a point actually, and this is one of the things I actually liked about the prequels, was George seemed to be combating that. Like, no, it's midichlorians. It's not, you know, it's not panentheism or whatever, or pantheism, take your pick. But she again, in this book, American Cosmos, very good read. Yeah, I mean, it's playing with people's heads, you know, and like, there's an argument that by some classicists that actually, like, the ancient Greeks, they didn't really believe that there were gods, but it was just like the mental framework with which they engaged everything that happened in their world. And so in a way, I kind of feel like we've almost gotten back to that. And boy, that terrifies the fuck out of me. And I mean, this isn't like our gods wear spandex kind of situation. I mean, maybe it is now at this stage, but I just, again, when you started talking about this, it just really struck me that I'm like, you know, I was accused as a young person of like not having a grasp on reality. And I'm like, oh, no, I have a great grasp of reality. But now, like, I see what's going on and go, holy shit. Yeah, people don't have a grasp on reality. Like they have no escapism. Everything is, I don't even know what words to use for it.
Everything's a front on some war.
Yeah. Oh, there's the words. Yeah. So oh man, I'm gonna.
I mean, it does. It's if there's anything in this world that depresses me, it just feels like everything is in conflict.
Yeah,
there's no escape from it. You can't get away from it. You know,
right.
I live in a log cabin in the forest, and even I feel like I'm like inundated by it.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, this is not good.
No.
I will walk away from this podcast recording very depressed.
Well, let's hope we can turn it around the next, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Well, let's get back to episode 3, shall we? Yeah, so I guess where we jumped off with this in 2005, like, I very much enjoyed this movie. Like, I had a very good time with it. All of the things that, or a lot of the things that fans complain about with it, like some of the writing, the acting, like particularly the scene where, you know, Padme is, Anakin, you're breaking my heart. All this, I loved the fuck out of that. Like, I mean, all that stuff was so cool, in my opinion, and so well done, and like just such high art, really. To say nothing of, Yoda versus Palpatine. I mean, there's so many. I mean, yeah, it was bullshit that like, Kit Fisto got taken out like a chump like that. That's horseshit, man. He should have given like Palpatine a little bit of his run for his money. Or Aayla Secura getting just shot down. It's like, oh, come on, like give us a little bit more. And Plo Koon, God damn it.
And that's the one that always fucking hits me right in the chest.
Exactly. Right on. Yeah. So
I mean, there's a spectrum.
Right.
And on one end of the spectrum is Plo Koon, and on the other end of the spectrum is Ki-Adi-Mundi and Mace Windu.
Well, they're fucking assholes. Like,
that's the spectrum.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, okay, there's some Jedi getting shot, you cheer, and there's some you jeer, you're just like, damn it. Like, couldn't Aayla Secura run away?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Whereas when Ki-Adi got shot down, I was like, man, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
I still, I've brought this up so many times. Again, because like guys like you and I, we're such Star Wars sweaties. I mean, like we've been so heavy on this for decades. But I remember very specifically that extraneous material for The Phantom Menace for episode 1 said that Ki-Adi-Mundi was the only Jedi Knight, not Master, the only Jedi Knight on the Jedi Council. And yet episode 3 changes that fucking completely. Like saying that, oh no, because that's the big conflict for like why, Anakin, is so pissed because they're not going to make him a master, but they're going to let him sit on the council, and that's never been done before. I'm like, horseshit. Ki-Adi-Mundi did that. I mean, and maybe that's why Ki-Adi-Mundi was such an asshole, because he got shafted, too. But anyway, it doesn't fit with the canon, but whatever. Nobody cares about canon in Star Wars, it seems, except for maybe Timothy Zahn. But anyway, yeah. So, I liked the movie in 2005. I find myself being a lot more critical about it 20 years later. I mean, and
really? Wow.
Yeah. And not in, so I don't look at it with the same positive light.
See, I'm like the opposite.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I look at it and I'm like, man, I wish we had this little to complain about.
Wow. Okay. Well, a part of me like that I have to pay attention to is, I feel like, and granted, these aren't things we knew in 2005, but like when it would come out on DVD and then just over the years, like now we know some things. Like we know that actually originally in the script, Padme was supposed to go to Mustafar basically with a knife in her hand. Yep. And she was going to kill Anakin.
Yeah, there's concept art of that, of her holding a knife behind her back.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the way that the scene was originally. I've watched that scene over and over again, can quote it by heart. But that would have made such a better fucking movie. And having her and and all the deleted scenes where she's basically sparking the rebellion. I mean, to the point, like even like her little headdress thing looks like the Firebird, that is the Rebel Alliance symbol and all this.
I agree with you on the second part of that.
Okay.
So I think it would have been cool if her character had lived longer and gone on to like be part of the rebellion. In fact, there's a really fascinating fan fiction out there where she's not named Padme, of course, because we didn't know what her name was before the prequels, but right. the mother of Luke and Leia goes to confront Darth Vader because she's a Jedi too.
Yeah.
Back then we didn't know that Jedi weren't supposed to get married at all.
Right. Yeah, like that those are kick-ass story ideas,
But I kind of disagree with you. Like I think, yeah, like there's a part of me I think it would be cool if Padme tried to kill Anakin, but you really think about it, it's not in her character.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she's literally the diplomat.
Yes, that's true. It's just, this is one of the critiques I have of the film now is like, I just think she comes off weak. in the movie. Like, she's just like pregnant in her apartment all the time, like just waiting for Anakin. And it's like, like I look at it now and I'm like, man, this is one of like the worst character arcs next to, what they did to, Finn in the sequel trilogy, right? Like, him getting shafted in low rent, like it makes me almost like episode 2 better than episode 3, because at least in episode 2, like Padme got to kick some ass. And I don't know. There's something about it. Like, and go ahead.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from like, a sort of character, arc, and in terms of, I think it kind of did a disservice to sort of like the feminist character that she is.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think pregnancy is kind of like a state of vulnerability for a lot of women.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what has like, sort of brought on a lot of sex attitudes. So I'm not saying that like that's,
Mm-hmm.
a weakness of women,
Mm-hmm.
but it is a state of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it brings on a type of vulnerability. I think it also brings on, and I hear you, like and like, I get it. I think it can also bring on like a greater strength, as well, because
for sure. But I think that's like strength of character,
mm-hmm.
and things like that. But like, I think it would have been a little weird if we had, Padme, fighting with clone troopers with a blaster while she was pregnant.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I don't know if I agree with you there. Like, I don't necessarily think we have to go that far, but like, there should have been a little something
not
more.
That she couldn't do it. It's
no,
just,
of course she could. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, even if there was some story arc where like she was still working with the handmaidens and having them do some espionage shit,
that would have been fucking cool. Yeah, right. They brought Sabe in.
Yes.
Yes.
And I mean, bring in Keira Knightley, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
I've been arguing for this for years. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Anyway, like now, so I watched the film now and I think that's it. I watched the film now and I'm just like, man, there's like, I agree. It's great as it is, but there's just a lot of missed opportunities, I think. And
I think that kind of like that summed up a lot of my feelings about the prequels in general. Was missed opportunities.
Yep.
Because like my overactive imagination for literally, the 2 decades prior to that, more than 2 decades really, was more exciting than what the prequels had to offer.
Right. And I think the Clone Wars, like, bandaged that, right?
Yeah.
Like the show did.
Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, like that absolutely, that show kind of was what rehabilitated the prequels for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm able to watch them now in a new light and a new appreciation.
Yeah. And look, it's great. And believe me, I have all the compliments in the world for Hayden Christensen. Like, that's another thing. And I know you've said this in the past, and we've said it on TIE Fighter Renegades over and over again. I mean, like, there was a point where we basically felt that, like, no, Matt Lanter is Anakin Skywalker.
Like I wanted to see them remake the prequels in Clone Wars, animated format.
Right. Oh, totally. Yes, I would love that. Actually, I imagine that'd be a very simple thing for like LLMs to do or something, like that would actually be really fucking cool. But that's the thing. Like now, I watch episode 3 and just speaking conventionally, Matt Lanter just has this complete alpha male fucking energy in his voice, like he's in charge. He knows what's going on. He's confident. I'm going to do it. As to where Hayden Christensen just comes off, I don't want to say weak. I don't like using that word for him because, again, I don't have any complaints about Hayden Christensen at all. But it's a very different energy. It's a much softer energy than.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work.
Because if you watch interviews with Matt Lanter, he does not give off those vibes in real life.
No, I know, right. I mean, you can even see him act in the season 1 of The Mandalorian.
Right.
And it's not there. You're totally right about that. But man, get him behind a microphone in a voice booth, and holy shit, let's go. I mean, my knee pads are on, but I'm just saying that, like, it's just something, I don't know, like, and it only happens after the fact. Cause I was asking myself after we watched it this weekend, I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Because in 2005, I loved that shit. I thought he was great. And it really is that. It's the after the fact of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny too, because I think one of my biggest problems with the prequels overall is that you never got the sense that we ever got to see Anakin as the hero that Obi-Wan was talking about in A New Hope.
Yep.
Whereas you get that in the Clone Wars, you get that he was, a great fighter pilot, a great warrior, a good friend to Obi-Wan. He was all of those things.
Right. All right. So that leads me to, and I'll give my answer first, but that leads me to the question so you can think about it. Like, what's your favorite scene in episode 3? I'll give you mine because it's short and it's very simple. And it is that scene, and it speaks directly to what you were just talking about. It is the one scene that gave us that idea of the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin. And it's, just after the opening shot, which, by the way, the opening sequence of this movie is incredible. I mean, like the big, starships just, broadsiding each other, and, all that's phenomenal. Though I do wish the Shakti death scene deleted scene was put back in. But anyway, what's that?
Which one?
Yeah, oh, good point. Right. Yeah, they did that a few different ways. So, but when they're back on Coruscant after they've crash landed, Grievous's ship, and there's just the scene where Obi-Wan's, or he's like, "This is the 10th time I've saved you," and Obi-Wan says, "No, 9th time. That business on Cato Nemoidia doesn't count." I love that scene so much. That is such great writing. You don't have to have a goddamn clue what happened on Cato Nemoidia. It doesn't even matter. Like, what matters is the way that they just so nonchalantly talk, because they've just been through so much insane shit, and that is so fun. It is a laugh out loud moment, and just, again, incredible writing. That's easy. I mean, and I mean, yes, I could pick out other ones, like, the opera scene with Palpatine, explaining the story of Darth Plagueis and all that. There's lots of great scenes in this movie, but that's still my favorite one. I always wait for it because it's so well done, so well acted, so well written. What do you got? Or if you want to respond,
yeah, my answer is fairly similar. Although I'm going to say, just for pure cool factor, the opera scene is like, like the highlight of the movie.
Yeah.
Totally. But at the same time, I have a very similar answer, and it's where the scene between Anakin and Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan just asked Anakin to spy on Palpatine, and he leaves to go to Utapau. And after multiple viewings, you realize, this is the last time these two are talking as friends.
Yeah.
And that scene always really hits me. Is just like, and that's here again, a lot of my problem with Anakin's kind of like turn to the dark side, because where we leave these two characters and where we pick them up again later on the movie is so far out of left field, and like Obi-Wan didn't even really get a chance to, like, talk Anakin down.
Right. Yeah. It's, first off, that is
too far gone.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great choice. Like, I didn't even think about that necessarily. Like, that is a killer choice and I agree with you. What a great scene. And has so much more meaning after you've watched it a few times. I agree with you on that.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, every time I watch the movie and that scene comes up, I always think to myself, this is the last time they met as friends.
Yeah. Yeah. It leads me to one of the things, and I want to ask you this of you as well. I'll get into mine here first, of like any new realizations you've had watching this movie 20 years later, or after so many times maybe, and then seeing it on the big screen again, because everything's different on the big screen, right? Like when you and I and Mrs. SOVRYN, when we all went to go see David Lynch's Dune, for whatever that was, 40th anniversary or something. We were seeing shit in that. And I mean, brother, how many times have we watched this movie, and how many different versions have we seen of this thing? Like, I mean, countless times I've seen this film. But when you see it in theaters and you just have that more singular focus and the gigantic ass screen, you're just always going to notice things you never noticed before. It's always going to be like just a different experience. So, and same is true with this. I never and I think this speaks to the scene you're talking about. Like Ellen and I were talking about it the morning after over breakfast. And like, I really feel like there were, and that's just the brilliance of George's writing, I think, because it's very much, like the story of Achilles, it's very much, that kind of tale where like Anakin is very much an Achilles, and he actually, there's multiple paths that he could take. And I think they're represented by each character. Like basically Obi-Wan is the path he could have taken if he stayed a Jedi. Right. Palpatine is obviously the path that he did take, the dark side. But then there's this third path, which I always say, look for the third way in anything. There's this third path that really Padme offers to him. Let's leave it all behind and go to Naboo, and just stay there. We don't have to worry about any of this anymore. And I'm amazed that's there. And a part of me, I'm also annoyed because George Lucas, as brilliant as he is, has very twisted ideas. I mean, he has some great ideas, but he has some very twisted ideas as far as philosophy goes. Like he's really big on the idea that, oh no, I mean, you can just see it all over episode 3, where he's laying out this idea that, the worst thing, or the only thing you have to do to have evil overcome, is for good guys to do, or, good people to do nothing. He really believes in that kind of concept. And that's really unfortunate, because I think that's terrible philosophy. Because to some degree, that's what happens, is like the good guys don't do anything, or the good guy just turns bad anyway, whatever it ends up being. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I think it's even worse philosophy going on in there. And,
yeah. What do you got?
I mean, this very much putting out there the idea of karmic cycles that can't be avoided.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For a long time, I haven't just wanted, I have envisioned a Star Wars universe where that cycle is broken.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because, I know this is like a long shot, but I kind of feel like that's what Baylan Skoll is trying to do in Ahsoka, is break the cycle.
Yeah, break the cycle of blood. Yeah.
Can you do that without destroying the universe?
Right. That's a very interesting perspective, and I like that a lot. And the expanded universe back in the day in Star Wars kind of dealt with this, with what they called potentium, which was like kind of a gray Jedi movement, or if you could call it a white Sith kind of movement, however you want to describe it, but like that there was this more like middle path. Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, because I think Padme's path was the right one.
Yeah, no, I saw that 20 years ago when I saw the movie the first time. I distinctly remember thinking, like, man, what if? Like, only if.
Right.
They could have just, left,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
Maybe even leave the galaxy and go off to Peridia or whatever,
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's such a valid thing to do. When you're as powerful as Anakin Skywalker, remove yourself from the chessboard. Yep. That's how everybody wins. It's that simple. And
yeah, because if you're the thing that's tipping the scales,
right? Yeah, just get out.
Yeah.
If you're, because if you're the queen piece on the chessboard, get out of there, and there's only 2 kings left. It's a forever stalemate. Nobody can ever win.
And it's really it's the only choice where you have any agency anymore either.
Yes.
Because like you may be the queen on the board, but everybody's looking at you like a pawn.
Right. I mean, because, Palpatine's points in this movie, like the stuff he says is genius. It's wonderful. Like he's laying out such great shit. And I mean, he's right. The Jedi are just as fucking corrupt, like they're just as much of a problem. And of course that would be vindicated.
Even more because there's more of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be, totally vindicated even under Disney's tutelage or Disney's, watch, with, Yoda saying in Rebels saying to Ezra, like, oh, we screwed up. Like, like we were never supposed to fight. Like, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, like, what a huge letdown The Last Jedi was, because that's the kind of philosophy I felt they were putting down when we saw that trailer and Luke says it's time for the Jedi to end. And I'm like,
yes.
Yeah.
Duh. Yes. Tell it. You've learned, Luke. like that they were all wrong. But no, that's not what we
the smartest thing that's said in that whole movie is not page turners, were they?
Yeah. I love that line from Yoda. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So anyway, it's a shame. I mean, in one sense, I love that this movie actually offers like those three different paths, because in the hero's journey, as always gets talked about, to some almost a nauseous point with Star Wars, we can all choose those paths. You know what I mean? And
right.
when we get there and we find ourselves in our own power, and it's like, okay, well, maybe the choice is remove yourself from the chessboard. So, but anyway, like that is not something, and obviously I don't think my mind in 2005 was at the point to like really be able to even completely grok that, to really understand that. But it's amazing to see that. And I won't get lost on this right now. If people want me to do a Q&A episode or something about it, I will. But I also kind of came to this realization that I think, either consciously or unconsciously, Padme was very much written as like the divine feminine in the film. And that's part of the reason I'm also annoyed that she didn't get more to do. But regardless, like, I think it's there, but that's a whole other conversation and we don't have to do that here. So, so let me ask, unless you have more you want to get into on these points, Rob, but otherwise, let me ask you, is there something you took away from the film 20 years later?
Honestly, not really. I'll
sure.
Be perfectly, like the only thing I really noticed new was that Anakin pauses during the scene where he's killing the separatist leaders, and he's deciding whether to kill Wat Tambor or the Neimoidian.
Yeah. Wait, who first?
There's a moment where like you see him, he faces the camera. And like Wat Tambor's like been in the room the whole time, and you can see him at the end of the table, and he's just starting to get up. And I'm like, oh wait, I never noticed that before. Did he get away? And I'm like, they finally see show a scene where his body's lying on the floor. I'm like, no, he didn't make it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, overall, again, still an amazing movie. And for so many reasons. And even though I've, kind of eschewed the prequel trilogy to some degree, it's not that I've really eschewed it. I just put it like it's its own timeline. It's its own thing. And and to me, when you treat it as its own thing, it's still really great. Like there's so much cool shit and even some good philosophical points. And of course, a lot of tremendous action, especially when we look at the Clone Wars. Among other things. But this movie still holds up. And though I do want to say this, and this has been true for a long time, but like since really like the innovations in like say Blu-ray, or in resolution technologies, 1080p and 4K and all that. And I'm guessing this was some kind of 4K master that they were using to present. Not to say that the movie theater screens we went to could handle that per se, but man, the effects looked a little rough. like you could see the CGI so hard, in my opinion, especially when you compare it to the practical effects of so many of the other films. Any thoughts on that, Rob?
I mean, honestly, like I felt that way back in 2005.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean,
understand that I come from it from somebody who almost went into the industry of visual effects.
mm-hmm.
And like I literally, went to school for computer animation. Like I could see all this stuff even back then.
Yeah.
Like when I watched Gladiator for the first time, I could tell you at the point that the Coliseum real set ends and the digital part begins.
Yep.
I'm just able to pick up on these things because I have an eye for it. So if anything, my opinion is softened over the years. I'm, like I still notice all of it, but I give it a little bit. I'm less critical about it than I used to be.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, and again, I don't need like great effects. I'm just like shocked at how rough. I mean, because I know Lucas has gone over these multiple times since they first came out as well. I mean, I remember, seeing Jabba the Hutt back in '97, how that looked when they added the scene into A New Hope, and then like watch it today on Disney Plus, and like those two Jabbas look completely different. I mean, and anyway, that's a whole other mistake. But
I mean, to be honest with you, like a lot of those changes, sometimes I just wonder if they're like, Lucasfilm employment programs, to keep those people employed.
Yeah, or we got to have interns somewhere. They got to do something. Good point. Yeah, fair enough. But overall, yeah, again, this movie still very much holds up. Though again, I got to admit, I think it's gone down a little bit on the pecking order for me as far as like Star Wars films. It used to sit like firmly at number 5 around there, but I think it's actually dropped. But anyway, other than that,
I think it's been like several years since we've done a ranking. We might have to do that at some point.
I will write that down. I think we should do that. Though I don't think my top 4 will probably, like, I cannot imagine that ever changing.
Yeah, but I don't think no, probably not.
Yeah, but everything else under that,
I know mine will be different from yours, but
yeah,
I don't think mine has changed. But I do think like some of the lower rungs have switched around, and plus I think there hasn't really been any new movies. I think the last time we did a ranking is after Rise of Skywalker, but next year we will have a new movie to rank.
Supposedly. I don't believe anything until I see it from these guys. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, is that the next one in line, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I understand it's already in production.
Yeah. Okay.
And I know Ahsoka season 2 just went to production too.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm about as excited for Mandalorian Grogu as I am for getting teeth pulled. So, like that's
what I've heard is not encouraging.
No. I mean, because you can just see Disney fucked with Filoni's plan for that. Like, Grogu was not supposed to be that much of the picture, after season 1. Something's not right there. Anyway, so, well, we did mention, because I mean, look, okay, not everything Disney does is bad, and I do want to talk about Andor a little bit here in a second, but one of the more interesting things to come out of Star Wars Celebration that really only crossed my bow just because, I stalk Sam Witwer regularly across all platforms, and he might be the only reason I'm on social media, just because I want to be on him like Saran wrap on turkey. But anyway, he talked about how he is, coming back as Maul in his own series, which it's not Shadow Hunter, like because there was a book.
Lord.
Shadow Lord, is that what it is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, because there was the book, which actually got a recent re-release with, thankfully, Sam Witwer doing the audiobook for it, of the book Shadow Hunter, that came out, I want to say shortly after episode 1 came out. Very good book. I really enjoyed that. And I regularly had my pants off when listening to Sam Witwer reading it, but I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry, I just have to say this. Like, I find it funny that you stalk Sam Witwer, because like it feels a little self-indulgent in a way, because I like if he put on some glasses and grew a goatee, I almost feel like he could be your doppelganger, or you him.
I'm not that sexy. Thank you. That might be one of the kindest things anyone's ever said about me, but holy shit.
You sell yourself short, but I'll forgive you. And nobody's perfect.
Except for Sam Witwer. But so all right. Well, anyway, I'll stop blushing here. But so yeah, he's amazing. Okay. And so like I'll watch this show, Shadow Lord, honestly, like I'll give it a shot, because again, I can treat this stuff as separate timelines, not as canon in my head, but like as separate timelines. So I will end up watching this. I mean, it sounds like, or a lot of people are theorizing that basically it looks like Disney's lifting a major aspect of George Lucas's his sequel trilogy that he originally planned. And I know, Rob, you also happen to have,
anyway.
What's that?
The least interesting parts of it anyway.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, nowhere near as good as finding out the midichlorians are the villains. But but anyway, I mean, I know, Rob, you happen to have in the library, for those that are watching on YouTube or the video on Spotify, you can see and I assure you, because I've been there, it's a very small taste of Rob's massive library. And because you have the big red book in that library, and the big red book, of course, is well, basically it's from Teshin Books. That's right, Teshin?
The archive?
Yeah, the Star Wars archive, yeah. But the one for the prequel trilogy, because there's two of them. There's the big black book and the big red book.
Right.
And in that, it talks about, which covers up to the year 2005. In that book, the end part of it is the most interesting, in my opinion, because it's George Lucas basically telling the author, here's some of what I had in mind for my sequel trilogy before Disney, before I did the deal with Disney. And a big part of that is Darth Maul comes back and trains, an apprentice, a female apprentice. And that seems to be exactly the plot of Shadow Lord. I mean, what are your thoughts on this series, Rob?
Yeah, I just think it's like picking up where Solo left off, because it did kind of like leave a big dangling question mark.
Mm-hmm.
That felt like a tease with Maul at the end of Solo, and it was like one of the few like really cool moments. Like, here again, not saying it's a bad movie, but it was like probably one of the coolest moments in the movie.
I agree. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's like the last time, well, we see Maul in Rebels, so we kind of see him at the very end of his journey. And
after he's gone nuts. Yeah.
Right, exactly. For the second time, oddly enough. And then we see where we leave him at the end of the Clone Wars, literally in, one of the last episodes of the series. And so like there is this sort of gap in between, where he left escaping, the Venator starship that him and Ahsoka were on, and where he ended up, on Malachor.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm excited for more of this, especially with him being a bit more sane. We basically haven't really had that, other than there was a Dark Horse comic that covered some Clone Wars scripts that were originally supposed to be episodes. And this was their canon, according to Disney, but it was just before Marvel took over comic book duties. They just wrapped stuff up with Dark Horse. Yeah, Son of Dathomir. Yes.
Yeah, and which is supposed to be canon.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's the only Dark Horse comic that is canon, actually.
Right. Exactly. So, and that was great. Like that was a really cool story. I mean, I even have like a little Funko Pop of one of his specific Mandalorians that have like the red paint and the horns and everything. It looks so cool. So, you know, if we're getting more of stuff like that, like I'm there for it. Like, cool. I'll enjoy that story.
Yeah.
And
Speaking of that, you know, those Mandalorians that were following Maul, you know, it's really interesting to see Moff Gideon wear a Mandalorian outfit that was
yes,
very reminiscent of Maul's faction. So it'd be interesting to see if they actually kind of close that loop and make some sort of connection there. Because right now it still doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great point. Like if that's supposed to somehow be something in this, like, you know, post Return of the Jedi, pre Force Awakens era that we're supposed to get. I mean, like Crimson Dawn gets destroyed. We know that. So it's not exactly like Crimson Dawn, but oh, that would be really wild. If there was some like, you know, like Mandalorian / Imperial faction that was a thing, and it was like carrying on a legacy of Maul, just like there's aspects of the Imperial remnant there carrying on the legacy of Thrawn. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I don't think Disney's smart enough for that, but maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I think Dave is.
Yeah. Dave. Yeah. Yeah. No arguments there. Yep. Yeah. So, okay. That could be cool. That could be cool. Well, why don't we talk about some Star Wars that actually exists and may even be pretty good. Let's talk a little bit about season 2 of Andor. Now, as of this recording, I have not seen the 4th, 5th, and 6th episodes of Andor, which is a whole other year, because in season 2, we're basically getting this in multiple chunks. They're not releasing it like one episode a week. It's 3 episodes a week. And overall, it's going to cover 5 years. Have I got that right, Rob? Something that time frame?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, right. Because it's 12 episodes, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a 12 episode season. So season 2 has kicked off. And, you know, at least as far as, you know, well, first off, let me say, like, I was excited for this, you know, even though I'm not that interested in watching or reading or consuming a lot of Disney Star Wars. This was one where, okay, no, I want to know where you're going to go with this. What's Tony Gilroy going to do? You know? And so, you know, we have watched, Mrs. Sovryn and I have watched the first 3 episodes of the season. Again, haven't watched 4, 5, and 6. And I mean, you know, my initial thought on the matter is, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not like feeling the same kind of intensity that I did with season 1, but it's pretty good. I mean, what's your quick overall before we dive in a little deeper? What's kind of your overall thoughts right now, Rob?
I mean, the first season, the very first episode, the very beginning really starts off on a high note.
Yeah.
Just for, you know, folks, the name of the show is TIE Fighter Renegades for a reason. And anytime we get something on screen with some good TIE Fighter action, we're having a good time. So
yeah, I mean, boy, that was that a TIE Avenger?
It was. Yeah, they confirmed that it is a TIE Avenger.
Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
I think it's a piece of work of art.
Yes.
I mean, I'd say it's even cooler than the original TIE Avenger from TIE Fighter.
Yeah, totally. Which, by the way, you pointed out to me that Disney recognized that first came, or that was like first mentioned in the game Star Wars TIE Fighter.
Yeah, I was shocked that they acknowledged the game at all.
Yeah, that it even exists. Yeah, because that doesn't fit with their ideology of no, we don't praise bad guys. So yeah, that was really stunning. I mean, to see the inside of that cockpit and everything, I mean, wow, was that cool. Weaponry, everything. Yeah, amazing opening sequence. You're completely right about that. Because admittedly, in those first 3 episodes, like, it really toned itself down quite a bit from that. But keep going with, you know, what are your initial thoughts here with season 2?
Yeah, so I have watched all 6 episodes that have come out, and without getting like really deep into like spoiler territory, I will say that like kind of like my overall feelings thus far is that season 1 is superior to season 2, but I'm ready to make a judgment because I've only seen half of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I've only seen the first 3 episodes. My assessment's similar, like I mentioned. But that's not to say what I'm seeing is bad. I mean, everybody's acting game is totally on point. I mean, like the music, everything is just on point. Like I really have no arguments on the production side overall. You had brought up to me, and again, you said you knew why they did this. You had brought up to me, you said, Brian, there's going to be something you're going to notice that's going to annoy you, and it goes on for way too long. And you were telling me this over lunch, and eventually, like, yeah, I watched it and I totally understood what you meant. Like that was, I've never seen a better on-screen representation of libertarian infighting in my life. Like it was perfect. And it does make you wonder how the fuck does the Rebel Alliance ever even become a thing? Because certainly, libertarians never became anything. So, and for this very reason,
serious flashbacks to 2010.
Yeah, I mean, it was like being on Facebook again. It was just a jungle planet, but what's the difference? I mean,
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, the most interesting part of that whole sequence was him leaving.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it was like it's actually like I think about it, and most of my audience, I think, I mean, I have no way of really knowing this, but at least the more vocal aspects of my audience, were libertarian or have libertarian leanings or something like that. And like, they got this right down to where like, there's that wild animal, in the jungle. Like, this is a very famous I mean, there's been books written about this where like the libertarians in Grafton, New Hampshire, were like leaving their garbage out and the bears were coming and attacking them. You know what I mean?
I was just thinking the same thing because there's the point where they're eating that tasting and smelling fruit. Yep. They would rather eat shit than work together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, here's your freedom. Taste it. It's oh man. It was so like it went, like you said, it went too long. Like they took too much time with it. But at the same time, like they did it very well for what it was. It just could have been compressed, and we could have gotten other, maybe more interesting aspects of it. For example, like I want way more Luthien Rail, and I didn't think we got like a strong showing of him, at least in the first 3 episodes. Among other things.
He's kind of on his back foot this season.
Yeah.
And to a degree, and like not in retreat, but yeah, he's not, he's not advancing the cause even at the pace that he wants.
Right. I mean, I guess I still feel like there were, because with season 1 of Andor, one of the coolest things is there are points made, there are quotes made that you can take through your entire life in the real world right now. Like, I mean, there are dynamite ones, and a lot of them come from Luthien Rail. I haven't really gotten that yet, other than, yes, like the rebels fighting each other, like libertarians was certainly a great life lesson to take away from the show. Don't do that.
Yeah. I think we got like, there was a taste of that at the very beginning of the show when Andor is talking to the girl at the Sinar facility.
Right.
And he's saying, something to the effect of, this is, like, you're coming home to yourself.
Yeah. Like, why are we doing this?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And he's like, we're doing this for here right now, us coming, together, and and coming home to yourself, like you beautifully said. Yeah. That was good. I agree with that. Again, that whole opening sequence was amazing. Really was.
Yeah. And there's a, I mean, like, not that this, and it, I feel like they're exploring, some more like darker aspects. I mean, Andor was already kind of dark, but I mean, like there's a lot of like personal setbacks happening in the season. There's a character death at the end of the first arc there that was really kind of like, I kind of felt like that character deserved better.
Yep. I agree. I was stunned. I mean, it might not be the first time, but it's one of the rare moments, at least in live action Star Wars, where sex is recognized, like that exists and that people have it, including in a very dark way. Because, I mean, like, this might be the first time Star Wars has ever really dealt with rape.
It actually is.
Yeah. And, I mean, I appreciate that, like that it's willing to go there, because this is war. And, ask any historian and they'll tell you rape is a part of every single war ever on the planet. It always is. It's always there. You cannot avoid it. It always happens. It's one of the reasons that war should always be avoided. But so for it to be there, like, okay, like, good. I'm glad you grew up a little bit, to be able to talk about these things.
Have you been watching any of the Andor declassified episodes on YouTube?
Oh,
that
no.
They're putting out? I recommend it.
Really?
Yeah, especially after this second, chunk of episodes. Stellan Scar, can't pronounce his name.
Yeah,
Stellan says something that I feel like should have been actually said out loud in the show.
Oh, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm guessing Andy Gutierrez isn't there.
Unfortunately not, but you know what? I kind of got, Rebels Recon kind of vibes from it.
Nice. Okay. I'm there. All right. Because I miss that shit. Like that.
Yeah, no, I unfortunately I'm kind of really plugged into YouTube, for better or for worse.
We all get forced there.
And there's, like one of the channels I follow, I think you follow them too, is Screen Crush.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Ryan Airy, right?
Yeah, Ryan. Unfortunately, Ryan's got some bad takes.
Yep.
On these episodes, there's things that he's totally misinterpreting, which I think is unfortunate, because I think if you actually understand it, it's really poignant and kind of like speaks to the outstanding character of that character.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, I haven't watched his reviews yet either. I should. Because I mean, I agree with you. He has bad takes a lot of times, but he also has some very unique and like incredible takes.
I think I think he's trying too hard to find like, Easter eggs and things like that. And he's kind of missing the trees for the forest kind of thing.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, that's sort of a lost game now, because nobody cares. Like, nobody does that stuff anymore. Like, there's no like trying to find out like, oh, where could this story go? They'll change it on you. Like,
oh yeah.
I just and it's a shame, because that used to be one of the great joys for me, was like, okay, no, they got a plan. What's the plan? Can I figure it out before they tell me? And like, that's kind of the meta level of enjoying a lot of entertainment, but that's dead. Like, I mean, especially now, like, since you don't have to actually, like, they don't have to go to distributors, so they can change shit on a dime, if they don't like interpretations or whatever. And now they're also purposely vague because they don't have a plan. So anyway, that's side subject.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, like, I don't think this scene was even, to me, like particularly vague. I don't know how he's making this interpretation. I'll just say what it is. It's
do it.
The scene where Brasso is captured by the stormtroopers, and he kind of puts on an act to divert attention from another rebel.
Yep.
And pretends to attack him.
Yep.
And Ryan Airy thought like the guy had like actually betrayed him. And it's like, no, he was pretending that he betrayed him in order for him to not get in trouble.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I agree. I think he misinterpreted that scene. I mean, I can see how it could get interpreted the other way, but that's just because Brasso's that good. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, it seems obvious to me, but there's a lot of things in this world that seem obvious to me that are apparently, like, misty.
Yeah, that's what we get for being over 40.
No, this has been this way for me since I was a kid.
Yeah, no, I know. Right on. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, just once again, it's grown up Star Wars, and I really enjoy it. So far what I've seen. Genevieve O'Reilly is just killing it as as Mon Mothma. Like, she's doing so well. And
yeah,
go ahead.
it was really interesting when we had that conversation at lunch before you had watched those episodes.
Yep.
And we're talking about the scene at the very end of the first few episodes where Mon Mothma is dancing.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, it was already starting to get memed online. Apparently, I'm not plugged into that. I wasn't aware of that. But it's like you had a totally different interpretation of that before you'd seen it. And I'm like,
yes.
No, she is not having a good time during that scene.
Yeah, no. Now I totally get it. Yeah. 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 And it's really tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I told you, like, that scene was like, it was really intense. And you were like, you were surprised. Like,
yeah. Well, the way it was getting memed, you wouldn't know. You'd have no idea. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's really like, yeah, it's pretty, I mean, one of the things, that I've seen people kind of talking about is like, imagine seeing, and they'll show a picture of, like Mon Mothma from Return of the Jedi, obviously being much older, and saying, imagine that you would see her doing this, and then it's like a shot of, Genevieve O'Reilly, like dancing.
right.
And yeah, that is like weird, I mean, like, I get it that
that's one of the great things about this show. If anything, like, this show has done more for her character to expand it into an actual human being that, has
totally
triumphs and failures and is a complete person. Whereas, Return of the Jedi, she has like a couple minute scene and she's just kind of like a figurehead.
Yeah. I will say, I agree with you. And I will say this. I mean, so at the end of season 1, I felt so positive about Mon Mothma, and I know we said this on TIE Fighter Renegades at the time. Like, you finally understood why she is the anti-Palpatine, like why she is his nemesis, because she's that, that clever, that tough. Depending upon how dark they're going to take her character in this, I think it could get weird. But I'll reserve judgment on that for now, because like when we meet her in Rebels, which previously was the only other way that we knew her, when we meet her in Rebels, she's the very like hopeful, positive, we do everything the right way kind of person. She also seems to be that in Rogue One, also played by Genevieve O'Reilly at that point. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where this goes.
I mean,
go ahead.
And all of her prior appearances, whether it be, Rebels or the deleted scenes from episode 3, she always comes off as very serene.
Yeah.
And in this show, that mask starts to come off.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I kind of a it doesn't have to be the last note, but sort of a last note I want to get on is, I'm a little confused about, like, they're talking. So her homeworld, Chandrilla, nothing new about that. They act like they've been there for 25,000 years, and and they have like their own language and all this stuff. this is one of those things, like, I get it. It's fiction, right? But I'm really, really trying to understand how, like humanity didn't just evolve like on 20 planets at once. You know what I mean? Like what is the backstory here of how 25,000 years ago there's a completely independent human race on this other planet that clearly wasn't influenced by other planets.
I have a theory about that.
Okay. I mean, I can say what the EU said about all this, like, because like humans didn't
Right,
even invent hyperdrives, the Duros did. But go ahead.
But yeah, no, I think they're intentionally dropping sort of like seeds or nuggets for the James Mangold movie.
Yeah, I thought about that. Yeah, if that's even going to happen, because
because I think that's coming from Lucasfilm creatives, whether it's Dave Filoni or people in the story group. Because I mean, Tony Gilroy doesn't know this stuff.
No, of course not.
He's not this deep of a Star Wars fan. Like,
which is actually fine now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. But I mean, like, other people kind of have to kind of like flesh out those things for him in order to him have it in his show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get that. It's just it's a little weird. Like that's not how anthropology kind of works. But maybe they'll explain everything at some point in the future, like you said. It's just odd. So anyway, that's really the only go ahead.
I mean, I will say, Chandrila is supposed to be one of the like core worlds. So it's part of that,
right.
Grouping of planets that was first inhabited by humanity.
Right. Yeah. I guess now I feel like, okay, folks, you've got to tell this story. Like you have to explain, like, wait a minute, how the hell, like.
Yeah, I think that's what they're doing, is they're kind of like, to a certain degree, laying the groundwork.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, there's like, I don't see a reason for them to mention the Ricotta at all.
Oh, that was amazing that they did that.
Yeah, like, well, the second time they did it too.
Yeah. Oh man, when they said that, like, I actually, like, I grabbed Ellen's arm. I was like, holy shit, they mentioned the Ricotta, not the cheese.
Right.
It was amazing. People can go and look that up, and again, not the cheese.
That's the funny thing is like, for like, Andor definitely is the adult Star Wars, but like, so many of, like, there's so many like deep cuts.
Yep.
In Andor, little things, like in one episode they show Plo Koon's mask in Luthen's shop.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, and what was it right next to?
One of Padme's headdresses.
Yes. Right.
But that was in season 1 as well. So that's been there before.
Right.
And there was also a Sith chalice.
Yep. Yeah, amazing.
That was in episode 3.
Yep. Yeah, so cool. Okay. All right. Now here's the one other thing I got to get in, because this is one of the best scenes. This isn't one of the best scenes of Star Wars. It's one of the best scenes of television I've ever seen. Like, amazing. And I think Rob knows what I'm going to talk about. But the character of Inspector Deidre, or is that what we call it?
Daedra, yeah.
Yeah, Daedra. She when she gives that dressing down, to, as you called it, to Cyril's mom, who was such an annoying character in season 1, wonderfully, like she was great. That was so awesome. Holy shit, was that good television? I mean, where they got?
I enjoyed it even more because I had a narcissistic parent.
Yeah, right.
So it was like she was like saying things that I always wanted to have somebody say to one of my parents.
Yeah. Right on. It was so great. Like that.
It was. Yeah. Unfortunately, she goes back to her old ways in later episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I figures. But like, even that was awesome too. Like when you first see Cyril again in the first 3 episodes, like that guy, it was a Kyle Soller, the actor. I mean, someone give him an award. Like he is so annoying. Like he's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, like the actor is great. He like he's being annoying on purpose, and he's doing a great job at it.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah. There's a moment in, I think it's episode 4 or 5, it might be 5, where he basically just nerds out over being an Imperial, and it's like, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's good.
I love it. I love it.
You even kind of see like Daedra kind of like rolling her eyes.
That's so awesome. I love it. I love his character. I mean, he's ridiculous, but like man, I just
he doesn't get any less ridiculous. If anything, they turn it up a notch, and it's pretty good.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. He's one of, I mean, him and Daedra, like they're just, I don't know, they're 2 of the best parts of the show. I mean, and I know like there's so much serious shit going on, but man, what amazing levity. And it just proves the point that we were bringing up earlier. No, tell stories about the Imperials. They're fucking human beings too. And like, you can have these incredible moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we will be reviewing more of season 2 of Andor as it comes out. We'll see when we get that in. We still have to do our review of Dune Prophecy. I mean, talk about an amazing show. Sorry, there's a collective eye roll here. Not that amazing. We'll get into that in the future as well. Rob,
I mean, it can be amazing. I mean, like, you know, you can drop a giant deuce in the toilet and go, wow, I made that.
Yeah. Be like, holy, it's still plugging the toilet. Amazing. We really can't move on from this at all.
Whoa, flush.
It's like that, folks. So we will get into all your plumbing needs in future episodes. But Rob, do you have anything else you want to get out about Andor or anything?
No, like I said, I'm my overall feeling is still that, you know, season 1 superior, but I'm withholding, you know, complete judgment on, because like here again, I've only seen half of it, but I kind of share your sentiment that I wish there was more of the sort of philosophy in it.
Yeah. Like a few more quotable moments.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that in mind, we'll talk about everything, or talk about more next time, including the recasting of one Bail Organa, which, we'll get into that then, and a whole lot more. And who knows what we'll end up talking about. I mean, it doesn't have to be Star Wars all the time. And there's all kinds of wacky shit out there these days. So with that, Rob, always a pleasure to have you on, man. And we will see all of you on the other side.